Licensing Commission. My name's Sal Hernandez. If you'll please stand for the I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to the provisions of Section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, notice is hereby given that if you're not satisfied with the decision made by the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Mr. Fields circulated to the Commission last month's draft of last month's minutes. Has the Commission had an opportunity to review?
And there's one small correction. Ms. Westlake was present last month.
Is there a motion regarding approval with that amendment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. First item we have is a consent agenda item. We've been asked to there's been a request to modify the ownership of Black Jaguar LLC to add Mustafa A. Ahmed as a partner. Mr. Fields?
The appropriate documentation was filed with the Commission, and it is in order. Anytime there's a change, that should be presented to the Commission.
Mr. Fields, do you have any reservations about this change?
I do not.
Make a motion to adopt the modification of ownership for Black Jaguar LLC to add Mustafa A. Ahmed as a partner.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We also have under the consent agenda several passenger vehicles for hire company applications. Mr. Fields?
The following companies made application to operate as other passenger vehicle for hire company. Anytime an application is filed, has to be approved through the Commission. If you like, I'll read the names of the companies. Abyssinia Limo Service, Cozy Black SUV Transportation, Eric Drescher, Hazy Al Missouri, doing business as Missouri Limo, Michael, Luxury Transportation LLC, Mike Limo of Nashville LLC, One Nashville LLC, Showtime Transportation LLC, Cyan Sun Corporation, Saipan Transport, Sovereign Luxury Transportation, Wilkerson Elite Enterprises, Zeeland Transport, and Zomi Transportation LLC. All the applications are complete and in order.
I know we have a public hearing that's very important coming up, and I don't want to belabor this too long, but I'm always amazed at how many applications we have for these passenger vehicle for hire. You know, I've asked at one time, how many have we approved and are out there on the streets? But do you see any reservation about the volume of these applications that we've been regularly approving?
There are 243 current other passenger vehicle for hire companies, ranging from one vehicle companies to companies that will have 20, 25 vehicles. As far as the impact, again, they're spread out over the county a little differently than some of the other transportation companies, providing services back and forth to the airport and that sort of thing. So clearly there's always an impact, but a great deal of this has come from the fact that, for instance, the Uber Black industry requires local regulation versus a regular Uber does not. So in order to be an Uber Black company, you actually have to be licensed through locally. So I think that's what drives a lot of it is they're one-car companies and they want to drive for Uber, but they want to have a higher level of service and be able to charge more. So and they're bringing in, you know, we had some this week and last week that were, 2022 Yukons. I mean, these are not rattle trap vehicles in many cases. You're getting it's a pretty good fleet when you get down to it. But again, it is a lot. It's since COVID, it has certainly changed the way it works.
And I want to ask one other question. It may not be a fair one, but in your opinion, do you believe that this is a public necessity and convenience by approving these?
This has always been one of the most challenging parts because the ordinance does not specifically require a finding in the same way that you find for a taxi cab or other vehicles other companies that you regulate. There are some historically that have been people who've had 1, 2, 3, 5 clients, and that's what they do. They basically provide transportation, almost like a family transportation. And I think that's what we're seeing more of that. We certainly could explore the idea and come back with recommendations either for your rules or the Metro Council in terms of need. I think we'll also, as studies are being done through NDOT, I suspect we're also going to have more information about congestion. And again, this is the area, we start getting out of my area, but I'll defer over to the director of NDOT to maybe talk a little bit about the streets and volumes, that sort of thing.
Good afternoon, Commission. Thank you, Diana Alarcon, Director of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure with Metro Nashville, Davidson County. So as you are aware, we had the opportunity to present a while back on Connect Downtown, which is really doing a very intensive study of looking at how people, bikes, cars, Uber, Lyft, everybody, even the entertainment entities are moving through our downtown area. The study area actually starts on Jefferson Street. It goes all the way south to Wedgwood, excuse me. I lost my train of thought there for a moment. Then as far as the to Fifth Avenue, 5th Street on the east side, and then over to 25th on the west side. So it's a pretty big boundary. So we're not looking just at the center core. We're looking at how traffic's moving in and out and all of the different modes that are using. We feel like we'll have some really good, fair input. We're doing a lot of data collection. A lot of it's being done by camera. So we are catching the number of Uber and Lyft that we're having in the downtown area. We're getting the scooters, the bikes, the people that are walking. We're getting everything so that we can really give that true picture of what's happening in that boundary. And then that'll help us have a better conversation. We anticipate that we'll have that data and information ready to bring back before y'all in March and April of next year.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the OPHV application?
If the application is going to be approved, we can, of course, as we've done in the past, approve them just by listing each one and asking for approval or a second for the approval of all. Do they need to be listed by name, or can we say all that are before us?
Since I read them into the record, is that adequate?
Since you read them into the record, I think that would be okay. If they had not yet been read into the record, I would say probably list them out just for clarity, but...
Then I would like to make a motion to approve all the applications that have been read into record by Mr. Fields.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing. We're reviewing and reconsidering the ETV rules regarding enclosure and the enclosure requirement compliance deadline. Mr. Fields and the TLC office has encouraged ETV permit holders to attend today to talk about their progress and efforts to comply with our prior order and our prior deadline of October 3rd, 2022, and an ability to comply with any future deadline. Mr. Fields.
I think the purpose was to gather facts and present information of where we are and where the companies are with respect to the rule. We're certainly not enforcing the rule at the present time, but gathering information we think is prudent and makes sense for the commission to be able to gather it. We've contacted the companies through email and phone calls when we've, as part of our inspection process, and encourage them to come to be able to talk about are they enclosed, can they be enclosed, what have they seen, the the issue of supply chain, the issue of just the whole process. So we've encouraged them. Obviously, we did not require everyone to be here, but we did invite them, and I think many of them are here and are prepared to speak.
All right. Michael Winters.
Michael Winters, the Nashville Tractor. I'm going to go ahead and give you these guys some photos of our current enclosure, just so you have a reference of what I'm talking about as we kind of go along. I'll give you my 2 cents on the enclosure from somebody who is fully enclosed and ready to abide by any rules that come from this commission. And I'll also give you some feedback. I was in the judge's chamber when she made the injunction as it relates to liquor liability, and also talked briefly about the enclosures. I'll give you my 2 cents on, I think, where she's headed, if you probably don't already know. The judge's main issue that she had with the enclosures was it was redundant, as there are safety rules and there are also noise rules that the city can enforce in theory, and therefore it was her opinion at the time that the enclosure was unnecessary, hence the reason the injunction was put out there until another judge can decide at trial what ends up happening with the enclosure. But I got the sense that she thought it was redundant. Now, that being said, the enclosure you're looking at in front of you, we have had done before we were required to do it. We did that in one very easy way. In December of last year, when enclosure conversation came up and all the rules started coming out, we ordered stuff. That's why we were ready. I have generators in the warehouse I'm not using. I have plexiglass in warehouse I'm not using. I have metal in a warehouse I'm not using. I could repeat this process multiple times with the supplies that I already have. The reason the industry is claiming supply and chain demand, in my opinion, is most people didn't pre-order. I pre-ordered it assuming this was going to happen. I can tell you right now, a wagon that you do not have a photo of there will require 6 air conditioning units to cool effectively. That one has 3. That keeps you comfortable. It is not anywhere near effective. What you see photos of is spray foam as well. We spray foam the entire wagon like you would a house. That thing is airtight. The plexiglass you see in front of you is not polycarbonate. One of the photos you will see is a clear plexiglass. That is polycarbonate. You could wrap it around a pole and it probably won't break. The dark stuff you see is actually plexiglass. It's extremely fragile. We've replaced multiple sheets of it already. 3 sheets of that, to give you an example, is $2,000 for 3 4x8 sheets. When you try to cut it, it breaks. When you try to work with it, it breaks. In the cold, it's probably going to break. When we installed it, we have foam and rubber gaskets around it. We have rubber gaskets on the screws that hold the plexiglass in place. We have taken every manner possible to be as careful as we can with that plexiglass because, as you guys probably know, the vehicles move and shift. They're not a permanent structure. The reason we have a tinted plexiglass is trying to keep out heat. You cannot tint polycarbonate. So you can't buy the good stuff, if you want to call it, and tint it. It won't work. So you have to buy a factory tinted plexiglass, which is what you see, which is extremely fragile and extremely expensive. So yes, it can be done. We've done it there. We have 6 generators underneath that thing powering it. I have the newest retrofit on the wagon we're doing. I have 2 7,500 watt generators that are going underneath. So I have roughly 15,000 watts of generator power. That will power stereos, batteries, air conditioners, heaters, everything it takes to actually run this. On your recommendation, I did reach out to a company and look at one of those big old freezers you put on a box truck. It's $38,000 to install it, and what it does is it blows negative chill air out of one spot, which basically means on the front of the wagon, you have an ice cube for a bartender. On the back of the wagon, you're trying to take air and circulate it in some way. It's not a vented system. It's designed to cool a box truck. Very expensive, a lot of generator power to run it, and the circulation factor is really, really rough. So we went with traditional ACs like you see on a camper. Negative side of those is they're not real powerful. The wagon you don't see a photo of has 6 of them on there. And that is about the only way we can find a way to actually cool it appropriately in the summertime. And that's also using air movers like you see on a floor when somebody cleans carpet. Big monster air movers that just blow the air around. Fire marshal came out today and actually inspected our wagon. we got to replace a fire extinguisher. But other than that, he said it was safe from a fire marshal standpoint. So my opinion is, I don't know if these enclosures are actually going to make it through the court system. I think there's an opinion that it's redundant. And I think there's a lot of operators going to have a really hard time building what we've built. What you're looking at is per enclosure, 50 grand plus or minus per vehicle. So 3 vehicles, 150 grand plus or minus. Questions?
Mr. Winters, you mentioned that you used some foresight and pre-ordered in anticipation of the rule for enclosure.
Yes.
When did you say you started that pre-ordering?
December, when the Metro voted on some of the rules, enclosures. My attorney and myself were talking to some of the Metro, and we could tell enclosures was a very much a conversation that was in the wheelhouse, and it looked like it was going down that path.
So December of 2021?
Yes.
And when were you able to complete your first vehicle with enclosure and air conditioning?
30 days prior to the ruling. The hardest part is the generator. If you want, that air conditioner requires.
Mr. Winters, if I could just stay focused a second. I'm looking for the time frame, how long it took from the time you ordered these supplies. And I guess the next question I would have is, when did the supplies arrive for you to start the modifications?
All supplies are easy to come by except for the generator strong enough to power this.
Okay.
If you go to Cummins, it's 6 months to get a generator right now, plus or minus.
So you put in your order for equipment and supplies to make your modifications in December of 2021.
Correct.
And are you saying within 6 months you were able to complete one of your vehicles fully enclosed and in compliance?
Yes, what you'll see is the first vehicle, which is the clear polycarbonate, which is what we wanted to do. That one, we did not have the full AC on it yet. We didn't have the body foam sprayed, so we had air leaks everywhere. We couldn't keep cold air in. So our latest rendition you see there, we said we were going to go full tilt, add more AC, more foam. We actually have doors on the ends that close, so you can actually seal the entire space.
And I'm trying to get to, how long did it take to finally get one of your vehicles modified with the enclosures, the air conditioning?
If you have all the parts, and keep in mind too, I have repair people on staff. I have welders on staff. I've got people that can do stuff daily. Not everybody has that luxury. If I had all parts and sitting in front of me, it takes 30 days to retrofit one of those. Keeping in mind, you're trying to operate on the weekends because you don't want to shut down. So you're repairing Monday through Wednesday or Thursday. You're operating on the weekend, and so you're piecemealing this modification as you're doing it as well.
Right. So with all the parts in hand, you can do the modifications, at least for your tractors, and within 30 days.
Yes.
Your understanding is right now to get compressors, it may be 6 months lag time.
If someone waited until they decided if enclosures really were going to happen, they've got a 6-month window to get a generator strong enough to run 3 AC units. They've really got a problem.
But for the rest of the equipment that's necessary, that can be...
Metal, plexiglass, you can get it in a matter of weeks.
Okay.
The generator's the problem.
And I'm looking at the unit that you have here that's on the first picture here. It looks very attractive.
Well, that's the clear one.
Yes.
That's a greenhouse.
Okay.
In the summer, that is not comfortable.
Okay. Okay.
I tried using glass. Problem is glass, you're looking at 5,000 to 7,000 pounds worth of glass. And you actually, what I wanted to do was electrify the glass. If you electrify the glass, you can tint it with a dimmer. So you can tint it during the day and untint it at night, like you frost windows in a nice building. You can do the same thing with tint. But you're adding more electricity, you're adding 8,000 pounds worth of glass in our vehicle size, some are different. And you have a custom mounted window channel that you have to manufacture. And I can tell you in Nashville, I called 8 companies and one would work with me. The other 7 said, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole because people ride on it.
So your first picture here is the polycarbonate.
Polycarbonate, which is the preferred material, but you can't tint it. It gets too hot.
And this unit on your first page here has 3 air conditioners, which is
3 air
barely
conditioners
enough.
and 2 air movers. That clear tint cannot be cooled. It is 90 degrees. I mean, you're dropping about 10 degrees outside temperature.
Have you tried putting in the additional units like on your plexiglass one with 6?
Well,
To see what-
we went to the dark tint because we realized with the clear polycarbonate, you just can't cool it. So we decided to flip our process and go, let's spray foam the entire thing to kill all the air gaps because we have air coming in everywhere. And let's go to darker tinted polycarbonate and add another AC. And that's about the only way we found to cool it We had that operational when it was 90-something degrees outside, and I think Billy was out there one day, and it was comfortable. I'm not saying that with 45 people on there that you're going to be tickled pink with the outcome, but it was doable.
And that's the picture.
The dark
that
one,
I'm
yes.
holding up right here with the dark window.
Customers hate the dark one.
And your cost, did I understand correctly, was $50,000 to do 3 vehicles?
Each.
Each, okay.
That dark tint is about $5,000 on that vehicle, plus or minus, and it's extremely brittle.
Okay.
Generators, 2 generators cost you $18,000, plus or minus.
And were all the modifications done in-house?
Yes.
But you've been able to get into compliance with the enclosures and still be able to operate?
Yes.
All right, and you're still operating because you're profitable?
Yes, I will say there's 2 things. A, the customers hate it because they can't see out, and that's part of the joy of riding around Nashville is you want to be able to see the town. They like the clear polycarbonate much better, although it was hot. Mm-hmm. They like the view. And yes, it is doable, and it can be done. Now, keep in mind, I have a unique chassis. You've got somebody with a fire truck, that's probably almost near impossible. I mean, it just depends on the vehicle style. I have a wide open flat body chassis. It's easy to build on.
And did the enclosures reduce the amount of sound that was coming out?
There's no sound that comes out.
There's no sound now. Okay, so
I've got it airtight. You can stand 10 feet away, and I can turn my stereo as high as it'll go, and you won't hear anything. It definitely fixes a noise problem.
Thank you.
The unit with the polycarbonate, does this also have the spray foam
No.
underneath?
That was our first try just enclosing, and when it's not hot, it's fine. In the wintertime, it'd be fine. But when it's 90 degrees outside, you can grow roses in there. It's hot.
I've got a quick question. You said all this was done in-house.
Yes.
So would you say that your timeline of 6 months or a couple of weeks was effective because you're doing the modifications? So would you say that someone who did not have the ability to do it in-house would incur another month, another 3 weeks?
Well, I'll give you an example of what I think is in the marketplace. You have a couple things. You have people that have a welder they know, they can call and the welder will come to them and they can do stuff. Then you have people that have sent their vehicles to a custom body shop and had a vehicle made and then received that custom vehicle. Or in our case, you have where we've got welding equipment on hand, and we've also got some expert welders. If we really get a tough spot, we need somebody that's a little better at welding, we can call in. For a guy that had a custom-made vehicle, I'll say like Patrick at Upstage, his vehicle was manufactured somewhere and sent to him. Modifying his vehicle is extremely tough because he's got to send it back to where he got it modified unless he finds a local welder. We're willing to take on a slightly goofy project. And there's a lot of them that don't want to do it. And if you have somebody who partially knows how to weld, you're getting into a little bit of a tricky spot of fabricating in the back of a parking lot something they may or may not be qualified to fabricate. That's a little challenging too. So what you're doing, in my opinion, is you're pressuring the system to get creative, and some of that creativity may not be the best quality because they might not have the best workmanship coming to get it done as fast as they can get it done. And some of the guys with the custom body shops may not have the time to get that unique vehicle back into their body shop, or it may not be able to be transported to the body shop. Like, for instance, ours. I can't take that more than 5 to 8 miles from where we're located. It's a bale wagon. I can't go down the interstate with it. But once it's here, it's here. I can't take it anywhere. So the vehicles make a big difference. And who's doing the work? I mean, it's a tough question.
Commissioner Rogers pulled up your website here, and it's a great picture of the tractor and the tinted window wagon behind it.
Yes.
And I noticed at the top it says, now offering Nashville's only fully enclosed and climate-controlled party wagon.
Correct.
Seems like the modifications are becoming a bit of a piece for advertising.
No, what that is when you have something that not everybody likes, you've got to spin it into something positive.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It looks like you have spun it into something positive, to use your words.
Correct, but if you also go back, and not that you're going to take the time to do it, if you read my Google reviews and TripAdvisor reviews, I've got about 20 of them in the last 60 days that showed up and either wanted a refund or were mad on what they rode. Mm-hmm. So is it dramatically affecting business? No. Now, what also hurts is we're the only one that's enclosed and nobody else on the street has it. So we're the oddball out. We decided not to take it down because we knew winter was coming and it's too much work to put it together. So we're catching a little bit of both of that. But people come to Nashville to see stuff. They sit on top of the Gray Line bus to see off the bus and see stuff. They didn't sign up to sit inside of a dark, enclosed vehicle. So it's a customer. It's not customer friendly.
Let me ask you a quick question. Piggybacking off what you said, winter is coming, and you
Yes.
still are going to have customers during that time.
Yes.
Would you have done this modification to make sure that they're comfortable? in
We
that
enclosed
ride?
every winter anyway. So last winter we were enclosed. It was pull down canopies and heat and all that kind of. So we enclosed in the wintertime anyway.
Would you say this would be more comfortable for a winter ride?
Yes, but if it was an option, I wouldn't have spent $50,000 to do it. I would have found a cheaper way.
And where I'm going is, but now you have an option for both, winter and summer.
I'm not going to
Versus-
touch this thing until spring, no matter what the judge says about enclosures, because it's good for the winter.
Right.
But it's not something you can take up and down. When you look at hop on, hop off trolley, they have roll down canvas sides when it's rainy or winter time or whatever, because it's a customer thing. And you're right. And every year we do that. We did it on the golf carts. We had enclosures we rolled down. Joyride's got enclosures. They roll down on their golf carts. Everybody encloses generally in some kind of way in the wintertime. And very candidly, we spent $50,000 per vehicle. I'm leaving it up as long as I can, which is probably springtime, depending on what the judge may or may not say about the enclosures. But I'm not going to touch it till spring, no matter what the ruling is.
Could I ask a question? You were talking about your reviews on TripAdvisor?
And Google, yes.
Okay, I'm not looking at Google, but I'm looking at TripAdvisor, and you got over 2,000 positive reviews.
I'm not saying predominantly negative. I'm just saying I read them all, and I see the ones coming in, and in the years we've done this, I've never had this many poor reviews based on something to do with the vehicle. Maybe they didn't want to stop at the stadium and take a photo or whatever, but I've gotten more negative reviews on just the cosmetics of the vehicle than I've ever seen. And like I said, part of that is nobody else is enclosed, and that doesn't help either. Because somebody else drives by and there's no enclosure. And we're telling them we need to be enclosed, and it's a little weird.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Winters.
Thank you.
Lisa LeClaire, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Good afternoon, all. How are you?
Afternoon.
Thank you for giving us an opportunity here. Our organization is Greater Nashville Hospitality, and I'm here on behalf of speaking on behalf of Greater Nashville Hospitality Association and the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation. A letter got sent to all of you today, but I just wanted to put this on the record. First of all, thanks for all of your leadership in this. I don't think this has been easy for anyone. And thank you for handling these issues around the entertainment transportation vehicles. We really do feel that regulation for the industry is really necessary in order to protect the public and quality of life in and around downtown Nashville. It's not just downtown, it's also out to Midtown. I know we've had some folks speak on that before as well. Many safety issues are reported come from patrons engaging with others outside of the vehicles. Vehicle enclosures not only enhance the safety of each passenger, but it also mitigates further noise pollution, as was just discussed here. It is our understanding that ETVs have access to air conditioning and heating, and I recognize that it is obviously not a very easy to accommodate on a vehicle that was not made for this type of entertainment. We have advocated for strict regulation through the lens of safety for years, and despite the increased level of public scrutiny, most of the vehicles have continued to operate without regard to the current law or respect to the tremendous amount of effort Metro government and community stakeholders have spent exploring amicable solutions. So without enforcement, unenclosed vehicles will continue to promote a chaotic atmosphere in downtown, which threatens the authentic and unique brand that we have as Music City. We do ask that the Metro Transportation License Commission not consider a deadline extension for compliance with regard to enclosures. And we would also ask that you not allow any additional ETV permits at this time. We really feel like we need the rules that are enacted to be enforced and see what the result of that is. I think there's a lot of what we've put into effect that has not been enforced. And so I don't think we really understand what the impact can be or should be. So thanks again for your attention to this issue and your service to our city. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Patrick Klondike.
Howdy, y'all. Patrick Kludak, Upstage Party Bus. We have done enclosures in the past. We were told by the city that we must, in order to run in last winter, we must have enclosures. We were one of the only companies to do so. Michael Winters did it with his. He used polycarbonate glass. I used polycarbonate glass as well. It's extraordinarily strong, incredibly durable. If you add 2 inches of it, it's considered bulletproof glass. This is the same stuff that our quote-unquote president goes ahead and uses on his limo. So that being said, as you all know, I am a very patriotic guy. I completely agree. And, if tit for tat, everything's got to be equal. I'm that way with everything, basically. I look at a pedal tavern that's operating with alcohol. They're yelling, they're screaming, they're louder than 90 decibels. They're louder than 100 decibels. I've got a decibel reader. They don't have a decibel reader. My decibel reader, when girls are hooting and hollering, it goes up. Of course it's going to go up. But that is a decibel reader that lets me know what I need to do to maintain sound. Now, of course, when you see somebody outside of the street and they're dancing along and they're having a good time because they see people having a good time, they're going to want to get on the bus. If I enclose the bus, put on a whole bunch of plexiglass, which is now dangerous because that's the only stuff that I could use to go ahead and put a tint on, what's going to happen is these people are not going to be able to see in. They're not going to want to rent my bus. They're going to want to rent the pedal tavern that people are having fun on. Clearly, they're going to see people having fun. They're engaged with everybody. That's what we built. I spent $250,000 on a bus with a dream. That dream was to go ahead and make it the most luxurious open-air coach bus in Nashville, the most luxurious bus that anybody has ever laid eyes on. I feel like we accomplished that. And what we did was we spent $200,000 with a company called Superior Coach Builders out in Lebanon, Tennessee. I can't even drive my bus over there anymore. It would take me literally I would have to go down Lebanon Pike and take the long way and basically travel at about 35 miles an hour with my hazards on because we don't want TVs blowing off and all that other type of stuff. This is a matter of safety. Speaking of safety, there's a group, Fun Safe Nashville, that started this whole entire thing, right? Now, if it's really about fun and safety, then let me ask you this. Why is it only on party buses? Why is Fun Safe Nashville not going against groups like, every single girl that's getting roofied and posts about it on Nashville Visitors every week saying, don't go into Jason Aldean's, don't go into here because we got roofied. We got roofied here, roofied there. We're a safe place for these people to go to. And I'm sorry for getting choked up. It just really goes ahead and hits me pretty dear because we wanted to give people a safe, fun place. Yet we're the only ones who are considered not safe and not fun. I've got tons of reviews on Google, TripAdvisor, Yelp, all the additional ones to go ahead and say that not only were we fun, but we are safe. I have had one injury on my bus, one, and that was me. I had a paper cut. I've been in business for 4 years. Sorry if they're laughing, but it is comical. This is not about fun and safety. This is literally about killing this industry if you're going to make us all go ahead and enclose. I've gotten many quotes on what it would cost to go ahead and be enclosed, and I've done it before with polycarbonate glass. The difference with my bus compared to Winters is I don't have a structure over the top. All I've got is concert light trusses that are supporting the upper portion of the bus. So we put polycarbonate glass over the top of that. Again, strong, durable. If I go ahead and use something like a different form of glass, it's going to break. Everything goes ahead and has an action to its reaction. When a bus goes up on a curb or something like that because there's a whole bunch of blocked off spaces or whatever, and it has to have a little bit of length up, it's going to make the whole entire thing shatter like a toothpick. With our bus, the way that we did our concert light trusses is that we actually use engine mounts that allow it to expand and contrast and go against it. You can't do that with windows. It's just not possible. I've had two two highly credited engineers write letters to each and every single one of you guys, and I feel like they went on deaf ears, because those letters do state that it is impossible. It's impossible to go ahead and put this bus back to factory set. So I could go ahead and buy a $60,000 bus. I would have much rather gone ahead and done that and, cut the windows out and then cover up the windows with whatever. But the fact is, I tore apart a $250,000 bus by putting $200,000 in renovations in by a very credited person to make this bus. If you guys want us to be enclosed, guess what? You killed Upstage Party Bus. You did. It's a fact. I can't do anything. The only other thing that I could possibly do at this stage of the game, which we have done, we went ahead and we bought a whole bunch of air conditioners, an air conditioning unit. We used all the power from our generator, which we have a 14,000 watt generator. And just so you know, for every 1 watt that you want from a generator, that's $1,000. To go ahead and make an AC unit work, we bought an AC unit that is designed to cool down a 3,000 square foot house. It didn't work on a 75-degree day. So what are we going to do when it's 90? What are we going to do when it's 100 in the summertime? We're going to be out of business. And if I were to go ahead and bring this bus back over to Signature Coach and say, hey guys, here's an extra $200,000, go figure it out, I'm out of work. Literally 18 months. It took 18 months to build that bus. You guys asked us to go ahead and enclose these things lickety-split. I used polycarbonate last year, and that was doable. I am going to do it again this winter. I am going to completely go ahead and enclose my bus throughout the course of the winter, because that's what we do during the winter. It's doable. During the summertime, it's a greenhouse. You cannot cool down buses like this. It's just impossible. That's my 2 cents.
From an enclosure standpoint, obviously you have enclosed.
Have done it.
And you intend to enclose, and again, notwithstanding the air conditioning, but just from an enclosure standpoint, you were able to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to allow some airflow.
Sure.
You do. So, we have cut slits, and we have, I have 4 of those mover fans that they used for drying out carpets. I've got 4 of those on there, and I had 4 ACs. And I'm telling you, it would blow 65, and then it would be gone. Like you could put your hand up and feel the cold air, but literally, this was with 7 people on it. That was it, 7 people on it. We were like, no, this ain't going to work. 4 AC units, that and that, all together, in total, that was $23,000. Thrown out the window. These things are killing me, guys. What you guys are doing to not only me, but the industry has literally put so much stress on me that my wife has gone to the hospital for this. I've lost 45 pounds over the last 2 years on account of all the regulations and hoops that I've had to jump through. And I could prove, without a reasonable doubt, that the reason for this is 110% on account of stress. My wife can as well. We both have doctor's notes that could go ahead and show that you guys have stressed us out so much that I lost my friggin' hair. No, not really. But all I ask for you guys to realize is that we live in America where there is equality. You cannot allow a pedal tavern to operate down the block with a whole bunch of girls hooting and hollering, drinking drinks, and then say, party buses can enclose. Let's go ahead and make them enclosed. Guess what? I could put an enclosure on a pedal tavern, no problem. It would probably be a lot easier for me to do that than it would for me to do my bus. Again, sorry for being so passionate about this, but this is my livelihood. This is the way that I made my living. This is the way that I've been grandfathered into this industry since 2018. This is what we've done. I've spent my whole entire life savings going ahead and producing this amazing bus for this amazing city to go ahead and have something for Music City. And we have it. We've got the reviews to prove that everybody's loved it. Everybody's had a great time. In fact, we are as far as I know, we're the only bus that books more from the 615 area code than any other area code, hands down. Over 55% of our reservations come from 615. So we're the bar on wheels that people go to, There's a lot of questions that we all have also in addition. We don't know what the rules and regulations are on 8% alcohol. I've been abiding to it, hands down. We need to go ahead and we can't allow it. I'm getting people who are yelling at us saying that they want the reservations canceled because they can't have over 8%, and they're going on other vehicles that allow 8%. Michael's getting his reservations canceled because he's now enclosed. It's not fair. It's just not fair. Like, I look at Old Town Trolley operating every day between 4 and 6. What are we doing about that, guys? What do we do about it? If I go out there and I operate one day between 4 and 6, I'm not going to get my permit reinstated. You guys are going to look at me like, dude, you broke the rules. This guy's out there every day. I mean, I'm about equality. That's all I'm asking for.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
You said, sorry. You said one of your competitors is violating the rules?
He's not an entertainment vehicle. He's a sightseeing vehicle. But yeah, of course.
They're under the same rules?
There's a lot of them that
Did you
don't have.
report that to our staff?
I'm not a tattletale, but
Okay, well,
but I
don't
just did
complain-
today,
don't
didn't I?
complain about it.
I mean, I've told Billy before about Old Town Trolley operating, you know, and I've told Billy about Curtis with Off the Wagon. And listen, I don't care if they're operating. There's more than enough tourists who have come to this city due to the fact that this is something that's unique to the city and it's a lot of fun. So they are going ahead and riding us, right?
Okay,
So,
and you do understand that we didn't ask to do this, that the Metro Council and the mayor
you were asked to.
required us to do it, correct?
I know you guys were asked to
Correct.
regulate
We weren't
open air
asked.
party
We-
vehicles.
We were basically told.
You were asked. You
It's
were
a
told.
legal- It's a
you-
legal
yes, sir,
requirement for
sir.
this commission.
You were told.
understand that?
Yes, you were told to regulate open air party buses. You guys then took a definition of what open air party buses were from a Las Vegas page, because they don't have them. They see what a party bus is. A party bus is an enclosed vehicle. The same way that all buses that carry a limousine tag, that carry anything over, let's say 18 people, I think that, well, I know they have Hummers that could go ahead and do like 23. Again, I used to own a limousine company for a very long time. A limousine, when you have it on an E550 coach chassis or something like that, it's called a party bus. Anything that's a bus that's enclosed is a party bus. So we took it as a different page by calling party buses out here, because they're not. They're open air party buses. And that's what the rules and regulations were supposed to be written for, was for open air party buses. How do we go ahead and fix the problems with open air party buses? Number one, limit them, which you've done. Went from 180 to 39. Number two, go ahead and take care of the noise, which you've done. We've dropped our decibels down substantially. And I'd love to get a reading from Hub and see just exactly how many noise complaints have gone through ever since these regulations have been written. Everybody in this room doesn't want to lose their permit. Nobody wants to lose their permit. They lose their permit, they lose their life. So we lowered the noise. Problem solved. You guys won on that.
The bus that you enclosed last year,
Yeah.
you said you had installed an AC unit that's designed for a 3,000 square foot home.
Mm-hmm.
Who did you consult with to have that installed?
Two different engineers. One's named Tim Jacobs. Another engineer is gosh, I forgot his name. But yeah, both of them were the ones who I originally had come out. They work on aircrafts. They do heating and AC on aircrafts, which I would have to assume that is probably the hardest go around to do. But if you look at a window on an airplane, there's many different levels to those things. You know, we can't do that now. We destroyed this bus. We destroyed these buses by making them open air, because we are all under the interpretation that this is the industry we're getting into. So, you know, again, modifying a $250,000 bus to go ahead and get $200,000 worth of renovations to make it open air, and then calling them back 3 years later saying, the devil jumped in on us and God hates us now and wants us to do this, we have to go ahead and do it. I mean, like, literally, that's what we're stuck with. I could enclose during the winter. We've done it before. It's no problem. We want to go ahead and keep the heat. But you're turning it into a greenhouse when it comes to the summer. It's impossible. Have you guys been on these things at all? Anybody on the board been on one? Because I would personally love to take you guys out. I'm not joking. I would love to take all you guys out, even if it's for 15, 20 minutes. Go ahead and cruise down Broadway with the air in your hair and see how many people are waving to you. Because that's what these bachelorettes, that's what the birthday parties, that's what the 80th birthday parties, the 50th birthday parties, all the people that we go ahead and accommodate to, that's what they love doing. They love being interactive with the people on the street and everything else like that. It's fun. We're trying to have fun. We're trying to be safe. And again, we've never not been safe. You can't say that an enclosure is going to keep people safe. There was one incident that happened on account of one guy who was drunk trying to do a handstand on a handrail, and God forbid that happened. But if that didn't happen, it would be a whole different world that we live in right now as far as these buses go. It'd only be about noise. And we put the regulations in check for noises, and that's why we're down. So, you know, why are we doing this where we're trying to make things so difficult on business owners who have come to Nashville to create a business?
I'm going to ask you to pause a second.
I'm sorry, sir.
You've attended many of these hearings, I hope, right?
I've been almost to every single one.
Okay.
If I haven't,
Then
I've been watching.
You have heard the answer to your question of why are we having some of these regulations. There's a large group of community people who are speaking out against the party buses and the open air ones because of the aesthetics to the city, the image to the city, as well as the noise and the safety of other people. There's a lot of other people along the side of the streets who are not waving their hands or waving something else in disgust of it. So, and I'm not here to argue it with you, but to answer your question, why, there have been a groundswelling of people who have come in and spoke about the deterioration of the quality of life in downtown Nashville, the deterioration of the image of Nashville by the 180 different party buses that were running around, in a lot of ways, running our streets. So I hear you, and I hear what you're saying, and I think I've heard it several times now, but I wanted to answer your question of why.
I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate your response.
And there's a balance here that this commission has asked to do between your interest of making some money in providing a service to the city for the tourists that visit and who want to have fun, and the people who live and work downtown, as well as other people who are inviting conventioneers who are seeing our city and want to present a little different image than the party buses all up and down the streets.
Yeah,
So,
and you know, in
but
response,
if we could probably leave a lot of this to rest at this point, that would be beneficial.
if I may just say one last thing on account of that, you know, Upstage Party Bus, we live up to our name. We're upstage. We're not. In fact, on my website, I think it even states we're classy. We're not trashy. You can't do beer bongs on our bus. You can't go ahead and shotgun beers. You can't do any of that on our buses. You get kicked off, it's done. Because we don't tolerate that type of behavior. We're different. Does everybody go that way? I couldn't tell you. But I can tell you my business is going to be dramatically affected if we have enclosures. The enclosures were put there for safety. There have been 0 injuries safety-wise. This all stems from a Safe Fun Nashville, and there's a lot more things in Nashville that are not safe that a Safe Fun Nashville does not care about. Rape.
Wait, hold on. Let's not go there. When you put up your enclosures last year, what month did you start and what month did you take them down? Just please answer that question directly.
December. I stayed home instead of going out to Illinois with my family for Christmas. I stayed home and I did it. I was lied to. Didn't need to be done. I lost Christmas, and I lost all the money that I was going to go ahead and give.
Just could you answer
Sir,
my
yeah,
question
yeah.
directly, please? I appreciate the sacrifice for
passionate
your
guy.
life and your Christmas and everything.
Yeah.
But did you put them up in December?
I did, and they were
All right.
off in March.
And were they up in January?
Or no, April, right? I think they were off in.
All right. So
in
from
April.
December to April, you conducted business with the enclosures.
Had to,
With-
because
okay.
because it was said to be a law, and we were able to.
I think
still
I've
let
got the
people
answer
breathe.
to my question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Jeanette Barker.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jeanette Barker. I serve as the VP of Strategic Development with the Nashville Downtown Partnership. In addition to Ms. LeClaire, who spoke earlier, I just wanted to summarize some points from a record that the Downtown Partnership co-authored to you all earlier this week, along with the Convention and Visitors Corporation and the Chamber of Commerce. As written in that letter, the Downtown Partnership urges the Commission not to defer or otherwise extend the deadline for ETV compliance with the requirement for enclosed vehicles. We consider ourselves pretty much the sole comprehensive voice that represents 15,000 downtown residents, 78,000 downtown workers, thousands of businesses and investors and millions of visitors. And we want to make clear that each day that goes by without a legal requirement for an ATV to be fully enclosed poses an undue risk of safety to vehicle passengers and the countless persons that they come into contact with in the streets. For this reason, the Downtown Partnership believes that a new deadline for enclosure compliance be set today, despite the challenges and arguments that we've seen to date. The Commission is tasked with setting a deadline that prioritizes safety while also being reasonable for operators to meet. The number of operators, or the few, but some operators who have thus far successfully met this requirement indicates that the requirement and the deadline were reasonable. So we hope that today you'll approve that a new deadline date also prioritizes safety. If vehicles were required to be painted purple, an arbitrary purple, a compliance deadline might then be seen as arbitrary. But the matter at hand involves mitigating safety risks that by its very nature could hardly be seen, or a deadline should hardly be seen as arbitrary. We urge you to set a new reasonable deadline today and one that prioritizes safety in an expedited manner for all of us who share our downtown neighborhood. Thanks for your commitment to this issue and for your service.
Mr. Fields, has anyone else turned in a form to?
We do have others of the industry that we typically do not ask them to fill out a form, but they are prepared to talk with you and answer questions.
All right, if I can have a show of hands who would like to speak on the issue. All right, if you'll please form a line. And then when you come up to speak, if you'll please introduce yourself for the record.
Hello, my name is Todd Roman. I represent Big Drag Bus. And I wanted to cover a couple of different issues. One is the compliance thing with our buses. As the definition originally originated, we're completely enclosed. We have a roof completely sealed. We took the windows out of the bus. We can put those back in at a fairly reasonable thing. We've spent approximately $20,000 on replacing those windows. I can tell you that supply chain concerns were an issue, and it took us over 6 months to get those replacement windows from when we've taken out. We have those. We're ready to put them in, depending on, we've just kind of in limbo as it works through the courts and we're told what to do. So that as far as compliance goes. I think that one of the issues and what maybe gives some credence to the different individual buses is that the one size fits all. For our particular bus, just putting in a window that was already there to start with, taking it out, and then putting it back in is a completely different animal than reconstructing, as Patrick was saying, and the tractor and some other places, a completely manufactured structure on the building or on the vehicles. Completely different animals. I appreciate if you have a person in-house to do that work, okay? But to try to contract to have that done outside of there increases the time considerably and also doubles your costs. Labor cost on materials is usually at least the cost of materials. So there's a significant increase of that. The main thing that I wanted to talk about in here is that through the Visitors Bureau, which we're part of, okay, and that is that safety continues to be touted as the number one concern of the board, okay, and of the individuals being concerned. As it's been stated that there has been next to no safety issues with any of the buses. They travel 25 miles an hour. They're seated. We have in our particular bus, Billy was on that yesterday, okay? I would challenge you to even be able to try to fall out or have a safety issue on our bus. There's guardrails, there's hand straps, there's everything. It's significantly more safe than one of the Metro public buses. Okay? That is not a concern. Safety is a misnomer. I think that it motivates people. makes for a good argument to say safety is our concern. Safety, well, it's difficult to say that safety is your concern when there's been no safety issues. Similarly to the amount of insurance that we carry. I carry more insurance on my bus. I own one of the largest, most popular nightclubs in town, and I carry more insurance for that bus, okay, than I have on my nightclubs. Okay? When there's been nothing for it. We had so much trouble, as the other businesses can testify to even get that insurance, because it is so difficult for an insurance company to rationalize why you would need that. Okay? I asked legal here, and I understand that they cannot ask me, or I cannot ask a question directly and get that, but I can tell you from the team of attorneys that I have, an incident that happens on a bus, on an entertainment vehicle, has absolutely no impact on the city for liability. Okay? So that argument that safety and everything cannot really be the overriding argument. Okay? A solution to one is not a solution to all. It's a really complicated thing. And I think that, looking at that you were able to do it from the winter, like in our particular bus, we have the same windows as the trolley. The roll down the canvas, I'm sure that you've all seen them. It's a plastic, it's a very durable plastic, but it's not a hard plastic. The hard plastic, as they mentioned before, is actually extremely dangerous. Plexiglass and its derivatives are easily breakable, and they shatter or break a piece in extremely sharp ways. Okay? Any pressure on them, a change of temperature, a number of different things, okay, cause a problem. So what I caution or implore the board to consider is that your solution, okay, to a problem is not greater than the problem itself. Okay? It seems to me that the overriding thing isn't safety, it's noise. Okay? It's the interaction. We have noise ordinances, and referring back to the judge's comment, and I think that from my attorneys and the people I speak to is that that's really going in the direction of where the court's going to end up on this. There's already rules in place to address those concerns. Okay, you have noise ordinances. If any of the entertainment venue or buses have an issue with that, you can address that. There's different ways. There's lots of different ways to handle sound. Okay, that those can be done. The enclosure of the bus presents more problems from an aesthetic view, from a safety view. Okay, as I said, that one bus is completely different than the other, and not knowing when you're getting bills in six-figure range, okay, that people are going to have to cut their cost as much as possible. So the quality of those structures, okay, are going to be questionable. Okay.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
There's obviously a distinction that we made at our hearings earlier this year between an ETV and a sightseeing vehicle.
Correct.
And the major distinction is in a sightseeing vehicle, the passengers may not stand, and there's no alcohol. Mm-hmm. Those are two important distinctions between those two types of vehicles, one of which doesn't have to be enclosed, and one, under our current rules, has to be enclosed. I assume you agree with me and the Commission's decision in finding that a vehicle in which the passengers are standing and drinking alcohol is less safe than a vehicle in which the passengers are seated and not drinking alcohol. Is that right?
Any time that you have alcohol involved, it increases the risk for it. But that goes to the fact.
Well, let me ask my question. My next question is, what do you believe then should be the safety mechanism to address that difference in the safety between those two vehicles?
I think on our bus, I can speak to that specifically, not others, is that we have safety equipment put on, the railings, the hand things, everything like that, that are actually more extensive, significantly more extensive than the public transportation, which allows people to stand. Okay? The standing isn't the issue. Like I said, you couldn't fall out of our bus or anything like that. And if someone is hurt on our bus, okay, the only liability is to us. So we have an ingrained reason, and we don't want to be sued. Okay, so we do everything that we can to prevent and limit that. We have hosts on the bus. Okay, we actually on our bus we have 4 employees. Okay, to every bus that goes out to ensure that behavior stays. The majority of our entertainment is from our entertainers, not the individuals. So they're seated the majority of the time anyway. But if they are standing, we have all the bars, handrails up top, handrails across the windows, and grab straps as well. If I think the invitation was going to invite you to the bus, I would strongly encourage everyone a free ride for as long as they want to experience what we're discussing. Because I know from my other businesses and everything like that, having an actual hands-on understanding of the rules and what you're putting is helpful. I think that everyone, for the most part, has made a good faith effort to abide by that. We understand the incredibly difficult situation that Metro kicked the can to you, okay? An almost impossible task, especially when it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not like a speed limit sign that you can just say, okay, from here, any car on this here's the speed limit. There's all different types of cars, all different kinds of arguments. We have air conditioning on ours. Other places don't have any air conditioning, so that adds another thing to it. It's just not a one-size-fits-all. And I think that what you're hearing is the frustration is that we're trying to come up with something that kind of applies to everyone, and that's next to impossible.
When you say one size doesn't fit all, I've seen some pictures, of course, of Nashville tractor, and I saw a website picture of Patrick's vehicle. How many vehicles do you have?
2.
All right, and how many square feet do you estimate the enclosure of it is?
The enclosure,
40, it's 40 by 8.5.
So it's 40 long, 8.5?
Yeah.
And you have how many people, if you were at full capacity?
27.
Okay, thank you.
That our bus is, imagine whether you look at a school bus or any bus, a travel bus was already manufactured structural top. Okay, so all we're talking about is windows to us, but as the other companies that you were representing, okay, are completely different thing.
Right. But you've got windows, and you were able to keep the air temperature inside comfortable.
Yeah, but that's just reinstalling the windows.
Right, I understand. You
Correct.
can put the windows in, and with the air conditioners and everything, you can keep the interior comfortable.
Yes, sir.
All right, and what's the name of your company again?
Big Drag Bus.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
I have one thing on the safety thing. Just kind of tick for tack. This is an issue. I'm Josh with Big Drag Bus.
Okay.
This is all stemming from, as Patrick said, from one guy doing a handstand and falling out onto the road, and I think he broke his leg. Back in 2014, I was on the Pedal Tavern with a group full of people. Someone did a handstand on the 3rd floor of Honky Tonk Central, fell out, landed like a scorpion, and died. They've never been asked to enclose their windows on any of their bars. So it's no one's attacking them, but they're coming after us.
Yeah. The safety thing, as we talked about with the bars and owning a bar, I'm speaking, to that as well. If you look at the police calls, the injuries, the fights and everything on Lower Broad, if the city has a concern about the look and feel of the city, okay, Lower Broad we're nothing. We're absolutely nothing compared to Lower Broad. But there's no regulation, there's anything there, and I understand that's not y'all's problem. You weren't tasked to do that. But the city, or the safety in that is not even in a close comparison. They mentioned the Peddler's Tavern. The Peddler's Tavern have people drinking, okay? No safety belts, no guardrails, no anything. You're literally on a bike that there's nothing that prevents you just from falling over in the street. As far as traffic goes, you have buses that move with the flow of traffic, okay? A wagon, a pedaled wagon, okay, is much slower than that bus, okay? Creates as much or more traffic congestion than what we do, okay? So I just ask that all that be considered. Again, I guess to summarize, is that let's make sure that our solution to the problem.
We've got a lot of people behind you, and
Yes, sir.
I do want to let the others have a chance to speak.
Do
Thank
we
you.
need to set some time limits on?
How many people do we have in the line?
Like 4 more behind him.
All right. If you would please try to keep your comments to 5 minutes.
I got you. I'm going to try to eat that in 2.5 minutes. Okay. So I just want to say really quick, the biggest thing to me is safety. When I built my bus, the guy that built it put his company name on it. He said, this bus is built for a rollover. And yes, I'm the one that the guy fell off the bus on. And I was like, whoa, let me call him. He said, man, don't worry about it. When the insurance company came out there and they did the drones on the bus, they did the height, they did everything on this bus. The bus was totally safe. That's what saved me. Stupidity, I can't control it. I got my security on the bus. We got everything in place that we're supposed to have on the bus. It's almost like being on a rooftop. If somebody want to jump off that roof, all thing you can do is jump with them trying to save them. That's it. I know my bus is safe. The only issue I'm having is if we enclose the bus, then it just kills the whole vibe for everything. It's hot. I mean, you can't even get a driver. You can't even get a driver to get on that bus. These buses does not have the right AC on it. It's just, I mean, I'd have put so much money into it. And I do have my bus enclosed. It's enclosed. But I designed it where my windows can open and close. I can let them up and let them down. But when I let those windows up, when I tell you, they just turn ready to get off the bus. It's just, they just can't handle it. I mean, I can't, to be honest with you. They start taking their shirts off. You can't take your shirt off. Just all kind of stuff just start happening. It's a lot. So if it's about safety, I don't get it because the insurance company came out there and rated this bus. It is totally safe. So if it's about safety, putting plexiglass is, I don't see how that can be the answer if we got to go up another railing because they did all the specs and everything on it. So I don't understand why the plexiglass is the answer when people want to be seen when they get downtown. That is it. Nashville has a brand now. I think they call it Nash Vegas or something. When after a certain time, you can't move downtown. People enjoy Nashville. They enjoy the party buses. And to say we have to be enclosed, totally enclosed, putting people in the box. And let me just say this. The tractors, hey, beautiful. I mean, hey, we don't know what's going on in that thing. Because he's totally enclosed, tinted windows, he prepared for whatever. But I don't know, you got to ask, is this customers really enjoying themselves? Because I mean, I just do not want to go down that road. Whatever we got to do, I mean, it's just a scary feeling to have to go down the road totally enclosed and tinted up like that. That's my 2 minutes. Thank you.
Would you identify yourself and what company you're with?
Party
I'm guessing
Bus.
you're Ronnie?
I am.
Okay.
And I'm with Party Bus Music City.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You are enclosed today.
I am, yes.
How long did it take you from your decision to enclose to actually having your vehicle enclosed?
Maybe 2 months. But that's not, they told me that the generator for my other bus, because I'm just waiting on the generator for it, it's 6 to 8 months out because the RV companies, they got them on lockdown to get the big, the big RVs up under there to actually to push the power that you would need to accommodate the people on the bus. They told me 6 to 8 months out to get those big generators. I'm like, oh, wow. So.
All right. Thank you
sir.
so much.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Jim Schmitz, downtown worker since 2007, downtown resident since 2015. I just want to First of all, I hope that you do not extend any deadlines on these. This needs to be in place. I can tell you as a resident and a downtown worker, I appreciate someone maybe getting to the full enclosure to where they say that they can't be heard outside, but I can promise you, you can still hear them outside. I'd just like you've been invited to come and ride on a bus. I'd invite you to come to my condominium downtown and spend an evening there on a Friday or Saturday night and get an idea of what it's like with these party buses going by, or even a Thursday or Friday afternoon. I'd also point out that, once again, if you look at the list of the people who come up to speak in favor of this or against this, the only people speaking in favor of this are the people who either own or operate the buses, or are employees of the buses, or are vendors of the buses. Everyone else who's speaking about this are people who work downtown, who live downtown, and who are concerned about downtown. So I throw that out there. I ask you to leave the items in place that you've got there, move forward with the enclosures, and I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Hey, Luke Elliott. I work right up there, and frankly, as an 8th generation Davidson County resident, I'm pretty embarrassed by all this stuff. And I don't feel like the people behind us are telling us the truth. I can hear the noise. I was at my office last Friday. It was extremely loud. It's very disruptive. And people in healthcare, education, banking, legal services have all told us that we don't want this. So you all need to decide which industries are more important for you. And I don't believe that, these folks bring enough revenue to us. So that's about it. I hope we can enforce the rules y'all have put in place. Thank you.
So my name is Alan Valentine, and I am president and CEO of the Nashville Symphony. And I also want to speak in favor of not extending any deadlines for the enclosure of these vehicles. And in fact, if it were up to me, we wouldn't even have these vehicles. I can tell you that so far, the noise is still a big problem. I was in my office in the Skirmerhorn, which has thick walls, last August, having a conversation with my assistant until a party bus came by, and it was so loud inside my office that I couldn't have a conversation with the person sitting across the desk from me. The interaction with the people on the streets, the fact that we have narrow streets that way predate this nascent industry of transportainment vehicles, means that between that and the interaction with the people on the streets and the number of those vehicles that are on those streets makes it impossible for people who live here to get downtown to go to events and to attend meetings and to do business. One of our neighbors, Pinnacle Bank, is moving to a new location, and they will tell you that they're moving where the people are going to be, but the truth is they can't get into their offices anymore, and their customers can't get there. So they're clogging the streets. The issue isn't just about safety, and the safety issue isn't just about people falling off of these buses. It's also about the open interaction that the people on the buses are having with the people in the streets, and the level of drunkenness that I see down there every single day. And I represent over 100,000 Nashville residents who attend the Symphony regularly. Is really reached a place where people are telling us, I'm done. I'm not coming back down there because I can't stand the atmosphere. And if you built a business model based on utilizing publicly funded streets that were not paid for by tourists but were paid for by residents, and you're concerned about the fact that you're being regulated now, my opinion is that that's your bad. So I hope you will not extend this deadline, that you will create a hard and fast deadline for the enclosure of these vehicles, and that we stick to it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Samantha Andrews. I'm Assistant Director for Experiential Learning at the Frist Art Museum. I apologize, I have no notes. I was asked to come down here about an hour before this meeting. I've learned a lot. We have a lot in common with the people we seem to struggle with at the museum. Our building, we also have to heat and air. It's very difficult. We have lots of school buses, and I'm hearing how hard it is to air condition and heat a school bus, and I'm confused at how our actual school buses do it themselves. I've been with the Frist for 20 years now. One of my areas I oversee is youth and family programming. Party buses became a challenge for us before the pandemic. If you don't know, lots of cultural institutions downtown, from the Nashville Symphony, our new friends at National Museum of African American Music, the Country Music Hall of Fame, your cultural features of your beautiful city. We cater to a lot of families who no longer want to come downtown. A lot of that is challenges with parking, traffic. I sit in that traffic every day. I sit behind the party wagons. I go get gas at Exxon and I watch them unload and let women urinate in the grass. So I experience all of it too, and I get it. But for us, we're a nonprofit, and we rely very heavily on people wanting to come see us. Since 2001, the Frist Art Museum has brought art of the world to Nashville, not just drunken partying. There is something to be said for that and for our audiences. Just before the pandemic, I had to make adjustments to my family programming. I could no longer have toddler story time on Saturday. The reason being, a family was escorted out of our building by our security. A party bus went by playing an unedited version of Cardi B's WAP as loud as possible, and the family witnessed two women engaging in a sexual act. So when we're talking about enclosures and what can they do? Well, some of you may know the song My Neck and My Back. I heard that blasted about a block from the Frist. I could hear it at the Frist. A lot of those things are not actually being enforced. I hear them, I see them. But with enclosures, we at least can't see what's happening on there. Children can't see what's happening on there. With our downtown cultural partners, we bring an enormous amount of children downtown. We have buses who are parked on Broadway, buses that are parked along the Skirmerhorn, and children are loading and unloading off of these buses. Buses drive from all over Metro. As a nonprofit, we just secured funding from Amazon to pay for 12,000 children, free bus subsidy to come to our museum next year. But those children unloading and loading, guess what they get to see and hear? Those families are not going to choose for their children to come back to our organizations. So I really wish you would think about what safety truly means, because there are a lot of us that are not on those buses that would like to also be safe. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Lisa Haller. I live at 900 20th Avenue South in Midtown. I am here as a resident and a citizen. I've spoken to you all, to the Commission before, and I want to echo what you heard from my fellow resident in downtown, and also from the Frist and from the Symphony. As a resident in the Midtown, I live in a high-rise, and I can tell you that the noise issue has not gone away. That I can hear from the 13th floor of our condominium, I can hear the party buses, the pedal taverns, the John Deere tractors coming from blocks and blocks away. It doesn't matter what time of day or night, 11 o'clock at night, we can hear them. Also, from a safety perspective, I'm an avid walker. I walk around the Frist. I walk from Midtown to the riverfront on a regular basis, and it is very unsafe to have the noise. It's hard to hear what's around you. You can't hear scooters coming behind you. You can't hear other cars coming behind you. It's an unsafe environment. I'd also like to add, in terms of the enclosures, and I shared this experience I had a couple weeks ago when I was leaving the Adelicia to take a walk downtown. I was coming down 19th towards Division, and here came a party bus with what I would say was extremely lewd behavior. It happened to have co-ed patrons, males and females. The men had no shirts on. I can't think of a bar or restaurant in Nashville that you can go in without a shirt on. And it was extremely lewd behavior going on. 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in a neighborhood environment. That doesn't feel safe. That doesn't feel like a neighborly situation. So I would encourage you all to strongly consider the enclosures for the safety and quality of life for all the residents and visitors to Nashville. I would also encourage you to step up enforcement. The new rules and regulations are highly appreciated, but without enforcement, they're really not serving their purpose. There are a lot of sightseeing buses that continue to operate within the 4 to 6 p.m. Curfew time frame. They're stopping in the middle of the street, the step on, step off, stopping right in the middle of the street. I personally have almost been in 2 car accidents in the last few weeks as a result of that. So I think the inspectors, that is an important role, and you've heard me say it before, but don't forget about Midtown. We need inspectors in Midtown because we are on the routes currently. So I appreciate all that you've done. I especially appreciate all of the effort put into the new rules and regulations, and again, encourage you to don't forget the enforcement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chris Sizemore with TN Transport. I've heard a lot of these people talk today about safety, but most of the complaints have nothing to do with safety. Most of it's just noise pollution or noise congestion. So I don't think the enclosures, once you set the rules for the amount of noise that could come from a vehicle or things like that, but everybody keeps talking about safety. Well, the enclosures have nothing to do with safety at this point. It all has something to do with the noise. Everybody who's came up here who lives downtown just talks about the noise. Those are rules into place, and you're setting rules for us to follow, and we're getting there. It's going to get there. So this is a progression that we're all going to take, and with golf carts and pedal taverns and everything, we've moved in the right direction. Every vehicle now that has been made that's in the either ET or sightseeing, they're all different. Some of our vehicles, our buses have roofs with insulation that we cut out the sides of them. We can put plexiglass back up. It does create a greenhouse effect. We could tin ours too. It'll be double paned. We were at full compliance when Billy came and looked at all of our vehicles. Since the injunction, we've removed the glass just because of the heat issue. Once you pack 35 people onto a vehicle, it's difficult. We put the home units, 35,000 BT units, the roof units. At that time, every time you add an AC, you just have to add a generator to it. So we will and can be compliant, but for anybody else that has a complete open-aired vehicle, it's almost impossible. I feel for them. I mean, we had it a little bit easier. We went a different route with our vehicles. We wanted roofs on top of them in case it rained or something like that. But it's the death for them. I mean, I feel horrible. Me and Michael, anybody that actually has a physical roof on our vehicles, you can put the AC units on. We have back walls so we can attach. I mean, most of ours have rooftop units, and then, like you see, a split unit for a home mounted either underneath the vehicle or something like that. But there's walls and roofs, and we can hide the wires and all of these other things. But the vehicles with the open air, it's physically impossible for them. But, I mean, you've put rules into place, but I feel like the enclosure for everybody has nothing to do with safety at this point. I mean, if you really want to talk about anything that anybody's complaining about, it's just noise. So let's just get strict on the noise. I mean, the enclosures, you know, every railing on every building in Nashville is set to a safety standard. That's what we are too. So, you know, unless we're enclosing all of the other buildings in Nashville. But I mean, I think noise is the real problem and issue here that we're discussing. It has nothing to do with safety. So, we have sightseeing vehicles. Most of our vehicles are open air for our monster trucks, and most of it's just sit down, no alcohol. We can't enclose those because they never had a roof on them to begin with. We've built the cages in the back, and it's the number one thing for families to do. Like, our number one customers are usually either elderly people or children. So we wanted to create something for children to do, and it was my 7-year-old son. We saw the monster truck. Perfect idea for kids to come, and now every day we have children that come in our office and hug our drivers because there's something to do for kids and families to do. So that's the customer we're looking at. I don't even want bachelors and bachelorettes at this time. So I don't go after those keywords. I don't go after that marketing to do that. So all of ours are family-oriented. Our tractor is open air, but it's sit down, no alcohol, because it's called hayride. We want people to enjoy the city just like a hop on, hop off sightseeing vehicle and make it safe. But I don't believe for most of these guys, the enclosures would do anything for safety except for heat exhaustion and cause issues in the future.
On the noise issue, Mr. Sizemore, what do you recommend that the city do to enforce the noise regulations if if your vehicles are not enclosed?
So right now, I think it's up to the due diligence of the officers there's a distance from where you can hear sound. So I believe if long as that's in place and we're strict on it, I think the enclosures are fine not even being on. I mean, I can enclose mine, so it's a possibility. I'm gonna have 6 generators going at one time on a bus, so it's gonna the noise that was gonna be coming from my vehicle just from generators is probably gonna be louder than the people would probably be on it. But either way, we can cool it down. But no one else can. There's like 3 companies. Some of us only have 2 or 3 buses. I had 16 vehicles. I got 6 permits. The insurance y'all put into place, I paid for $116,000. And now you've retracted that. And now I'm stuck with it. Now I still have to pay it. I have a minimum earned that I have to pay. And so I bought insurance for all 16 vehicles. Once that policy's in place, you're locked into that. You can't be removed, and even if you do cancel it, you have a minimum earned that you have to pay on. So now I just have insurance that. So I think everybody here, they would try their hardest to enclose, but the problem is they're hoping that you'll retract it because it's something that's physically impossible. Once the summer comes, we'll probably all enclose for the winter. Even during the winter, we'll have ACs on in the winter just because of the heat and the breath and the people dancing and things like that, for people talking and chatting and singing and just the heat that accumulates in those vehicles from the exhaust underneath. We have 38 passenger tour buses that literally, I've had one in the shop for 18 months now, just because we can't get the AC worked onto it. Once one AC goes out, the other one just can't catch up, and the heat is just the most difficult thing in the world to try to alleviate inside of these vehicles. So we shut it down. But I mean, if we're going to have enclosures, there's no way none of us can possibly run in the height of the summer. But we'll do it. We've tried. We put fans on there. We put these in big industrial fans just to get some air moving, and people are just, exhausted and dripping sweat, and we're sorry. We tried to open the windows and took the sides off, but it comes to a point where it sounds easy to enclose something. And cool, yeah, I guess you can spend $100 million on enclosing something and making a party bus and that can cool down. But a lot of these people took their COVID money and this and that and created a business that they thought was going to be profitable and that was going to be safe. And at this moment, I don't know any issues that we've had from them. It's all been noise pollution. But I mean,
can I ask you something?
Okay.
And we understand your issue on the that you feel like it's noise pollution, but I think we've heard from some individuals here who address the issue that the enclosures address another issue, and that is some of the lewd behavior, some of the things that are seen by families that are visiting the Frisk, families that are coming down to the Schreimerhorn, those individuals who live downtown, that it's not so much a sound issue or along with the sound issue is what they can visually see. So how would you suggest that this board address that issue outside of the sound issue without enclosing the vehicles?
I mean, lewd behavior comes down to no matter how many security guards you have in the bus or in the bar. Didn't someone sling a bag of feces in a bar? I mean, it's things you can put rules into place. People can be fined. You can restrict people as much as you want, but really, I don't, on my bus, even though I did enclose it, what would be the difference of my enclosure being on because my glass is clear? I mean, unless you're saying that we need to have glass that's tinted now. I mean, that is something we'll probably have to do at some point. We'll probably go double insulated with tinted glass on the outside of it with our ACs running just in the height of the summer or something like that. But
well, I would say that to say that one of the individuals who came forth, part of what she said was not just visual in that there are certain songs, WAP, I could go on and on, that you would hear that the beat of those songs and the popularity of those songs would not be something that you would want a small child or someone of a different disposition who's trying to enjoy downtown Nashville to hear as well. So that enclosure, while it might not be visually enclosing, it would be, the lewdness would be deviated by just not hearing it.
Yeah.
So, and I want everybody here to understand that it's not one issue with the enclosures that we're trying to address. It is multiple issues that have been brought to us by multiple factions of downtown. Downtown is not a singular entity. It is not a singular experience. It is the Frisk. It is the Schreimerhorn. It is the Hall of Fame. It is Bridgestone. It is some of the fine dining restaurants that are downtown, like the Palm. It is when the Italian we have a wine and cheese festival down there as well. So it is multifaceted in that some of the things that we are trying our best to address and would love input from you guys as well. Because many brains can get many things solved, but we cannot, or we should not, and you guys should not as well focus on that one area that just identifies what you guys consider the problem to be, and kind of step back a little bit and help us. We're asking for your help.
Yeah.
We're asking for your suggestions, that when you hear what makes up the multifaceted community of our downtown that we need to address. And it's not just sound.
Yeah. But I think the first step is reducing the sound. It's what everybody keeps talking about, even you, restaurants, this, that. Still, nothing has anything to do with safety at this point because of the enclosures.
Can I ask a question? What company are you with?
TN Transport and Joyride.
In Joyride.
Yeah.
Do you advertise that people can make lots of noise and be seen?
I don't know of any advertisement that says make a lot of noise
So
or be seen.
I'm reading someone else's webpage here.
I don't know.
I check your webpage.
Okay. Is it TN Transport or?
Joyride.
Okay, these vehicles are for TN Transport. Different company. But being seen in this city is, our enclosures will be clear unless we're made to put tinted glass on now. That wasn't a regulation, but I'm here to do whatever y'all ask for. I understand this is a process, and the number of vehicles are going to be reduced over time with the rules that you put into place. And as long as we keep having rules and we're abiding by them, and as we can put somebody out there to regulate the noise and things like that, I think we're going to move a little bit farther into steps. More and more companies will close from this, and every regulation that you move forward, they can't afford the insurance, they can't afford this. So, it's going to be a process. So, you're limiting vehicles and vehicles. So you're doing your job. So, and I totally understand. I live downtown. So it's like, we grew up here too. And the Pedal Taverns had issues, and those were resolved. And that's what we're trying to do, is resolve the issues as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Sizemore.
Thanks.
All right, at this point in time, we have one more person.
Well, you're going to be calling me up later, but I felt compelled to come at this point.
All right, if you'll hang on for a second, I'm going to have to step out of the meeting. Mr. Fields, so we probably need to appoint someone else to chair the remainder of the meeting.
The vice chair.
Automatically, good.
Take care.
Thank you.
Ms. Hamilton, did you want to speak directly to the issue of enclosure at this? Okay.
Yes.
Identify yourself and tell us who you're with, please.
I'm attorney Sue Hamilton, and I'm representing the Big Green Tractor Tours. So I do not operate a vehicle, the party vehicles, but I can say that I have gotten on the party vehicles, and they are a lot of fun. And I do agree with Patrick that you need to experience it in order to initiate rules. They are fun. rules, we need to have the rules. I completely agreed. I thought they were out of control before I experienced it. I agree with the people coming up here and complaining. I agree the noise should be controlled, and especially, as I understand, during working hours, they should be controlled. People shouldn't be interrupted like that. I heard the lady speak about did not want to bring her family downtown. I wouldn't take my family downtown unless I was on a party vehicle. That's the only way I would feel safe, at least speaking on the weekends, Friday, Saturday night, where they block off our roads from 1st to 5th Avenue, if you're aware of that. It's now nicknamed the Drunk Pit. It's not the people on these entertainment vehicles. They're responsible, the operators at least should be responsible for the people on their vehicle. They should monitor how much they're drinking, and they should monitor their behavior, and if not, they should be responsible for it. But the drunks are in what they call the drunk pit. It is out of control down there, and I would not feel safe going down there. The only way I would show Nashville on a Friday or Saturday night is on these vehicles. And I have taken people who feel, as I once did, and as you may continue to feel, that they're out of control. I've taken them, and they've said, they're out of control, I'd never get on them. I made them get on, they loved it. And they agreed. I think all of your rules are very important. The tweaking of the noise, I had no idea it was so bad during the day, working hours. Yes, I agree. It's great that they came up here and let us know that. But as far as the enclosures, we can enclose with safety. There are ways we should not be enclosing. Our homes are enclosed and we are safe, but on beautiful days we open our windows and we're still safe. And sometimes we knock the screen out and stick our heads out and we're still safe. But sometimes we get drunk, or people who come to our homes, they get drunk and they do crazy things, fall out, get injured, whatever. We have insurance. But the neighborhood shouldn't get punished for the bad behavior that was not controlled at your home. Same thing with these vehicles. I think everybody should take a ride. And yes, control the noise. Noise is very important. There are other things. I thought all of your rules were important. Around the schools, the churches, the hours. Maybe we can tweak them some to help more. We certainly love the Schrimmerhorn. We want to keep them happy, but within reason, and know where our fear is coming from. I don't believe it's these vehicles. It's our out of control parties going on, the drinking and everything going on downtown. That was all.
All right, last one. Okay.
The
2
agenda
minutes.
today, so.
Okay. I brought photos.
Wait, before you do that, would you introduce yourself? Tell us who you're with, please.
Hi, I'm Mallory with the Nashville Party Barge. I brought photos. We can be enclosed very soon, although we do not want to. I do say that all of our vehicles have a decimal that we set it at, that you cannot hear us from 50 feet without. Each vehicle is labeled at a certain decimal, which is what I would probably recommend to each company. That can also keep the noise to not go out beyond or up on a high building downtown. I did bring photos. We can enclose in a couple days if needed. We'll do anything that is needed. And then, like I said, we will take all safety precautions. We do have a very long list of rules that we read off to every customer on there. They sign off on a waiver, and it is our liability as we do pay a lot of insurance. I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys for your time.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
I apologize. Your
Sorry.
name.
I tried to go
That's all right.
fast.
I'm the one rushing you, and I'm already
Okay.
asking questions. I'm looking at your photographs of Party
Yes.
Barge, and you, just so we have a record here that's very
Yes.
clear, your vehicle does have a roof to it.
Yes,
All right,
these
now-
all have roofs.
Yeah.
They all also have a railing. Comes up to about here on me, which I'm pretty tall, so.
Well, when you do that, I would say that's about 4 feet 6 inches you're
Yeah.
pointing to, right?
Yeah, as you
All
can
right.
see that
And you
all
have-
of them have a railing inside.
And when you talk, and when I'm looking at your bus here,
Mhm.
one side appears to have a window that's about 3/4 of the way in the length and, maybe about 4 feet in height. And then the other side has a couple windows that are sort of sectioned off together, right?
Yes.
All right. And you said you can quickly get your
So we have-
vehicle enclosed?
So we have the plexiglass, we have the glass that we can put on if needed. Right now, when it's hot in there, me and my friends are in there, they do not want to ride if it's on. Same for our customers, 10 out of 10 do not want to ride with it enclosed. They might as well get in an Uber and ride around the town,
Did you have this bus operating this past summer?
We did, and they were enclosed when they were needed to be.
Okay.
Okay.
I've lived in Nashville a long time, and I've
Mhm.
walked downtown in the summertime, and
Yeah.
I've gone to Etch Restaurant, which is down in downtown. Even walking at lunchtime, I'm sweating by the time I walk a block
Yeah.
or two. So,
Well, when the vehicles
you-
go, there's a breeze. But if it's
Oh.
enclosed, there's no breeze, They also do like to see the city. They don't hang out unless we're parked for a photo,
Mm-hmm.
sticking their heads out to get in the picture. There's the vehicle, the window's about this high.
sticking their head out the window to get
For
a photo?
a picture. They
Mhm.
hang out for a picture and then that's it. They don't fall out. There's no, yes.
Not to cut you off. So this bus was originally designed to be air conditioned and enclosed.
Yeah.
And so it was actually built to put what,
It
15, 20
yeah.
people on and air condition them.
We
with-
never said anything about air conditioning, but yes, they all will
I'm
have
saying
air
the
on
original
there.
design of this, not
Yeah.
your design.
Okay.
But the manufactured design of this particular vehicle was to transport about 15 to 20 people
Yeah.
in air conditioning,
Yeah.
correct? And so your modifications of this window allowed it not to be air conditioned?
It can be. There's an air conditioning inside on the top. But this is the thing, we've been operating since 2015 with open air concept. It kind of ruins our, image, and the customers don't like being enclosed in a vehicle. They could do that anywhere in their own car. You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know.
But getting back to the point,
Mhm.
the bus that you guys utilize
Yeah.
was designed to transport people with air conditioning.
Yes, all buses, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And how quickly can you get your vehicle enclosed?
I'd say in a couple of days. We have
All right.
4 permits, so 4 buses to get covered, I guess.
Thank you very
And
much.
you guys can keep the photos.
Thank you.
All right. I believe that no one else is standing or at the podium, so we will now call the public hearing to a close. Ms. Costanzas, could you tell us what are our options, or what are we looking at that we're supposed to do today?
So you're not required to take any action at all today. It's perfectly fine if you want to just digest what you've heard today and come back at the November meeting and make a decision then.
And I think it's important to point out to the folks who were asking us to not extend the October 3rd deadline or not, and to enforce the deadline, if Ms. Costanzas, if you could explain why we have no control over that right now.
Yes, sir. So the court in a particular lawsuit that was brought against Metro in a case where there was temporary injunctive relief sought to prevent the enclosure rule from being implemented, was granted. So there is currently an injunction against Metro enforcing the enclosure rule.
Thank you. Is there any comments or thoughts or anything commissioners want to share at this point? All right.
We need a motion?
I don't know. There's no motion needed. Today was just to give an opportunity for folks to be heard in a public hearing on the matter regarding the enclosure and the enclosure and the compliance date. So, all right. We'll go on to the next course of business, which was 2 matters that were deferred from the September meeting. Mr. Fields, would you mind updating us a little bit about the first one regarding nightlife party tours?
At your meeting in September, you considered whether or not to rescind or amend a prior motion that denied the certificate of public convenience and necessity for the nightlife party tours. You spoke with and listen to information and then deferred action or deferred further action to today's meeting.
And there are a pair of people up at the podium, if you'll...
We must be they.
Would you identify yourself and tell us your connection to nightlife party tours?
Sure. My name is Jason Holloman, and I am counsel for Nightlife Party Tours, and I have with me Mr. Bernard Bean, that is the owner of Nightlife Party Tours. And I believe the issue at initial consideration and the basis for our motion to reconsider was that there were questions that the commission had as to whether or not there was seating in this vehicle and whether it otherwise complied with the requirements. And as members will probably recall, the decision was made at the last meeting to defer action and have Mr. Bean submit his vehicle for a compliance inspection between that meeting and this meeting. And I believe Mr. Fields can tell you that that has occurred. As far as we are aware, everything was in compliance. He is enclosed. Mr. Bean also has the insurance. I know that we've discussed. So I believe that in all regards, Mr. Bean is in compliance, even with the things that are no longer required, and is prepared to move forward if he can obtain a permit from this commission.
Commissioners have any questions? Mr. Fields, can you tell us if you've had an opportunity to inspect the vehicle and what your thoughts are on the matter at this time?
Well, TLC staff did indeed inspect the vehicle. It does meet the standards through the rules and the ordinance of the Metro Council and the TLC. With respect to, whether you should reconsider or rescind any previous action, I never presume to tell the commission what to do. I can tell you that the applications are now open for the next round of certificates, which will be considered at the February meeting. The deadline for any applications is January the 10th at noon. So we will have another application process. So I would share that with you.
Okay. Is the vehicle with Nightlife Party Tours enclosed?
I didn't personally inspect it. I'm going to turn around to Mr. Schlafer.
He seems to be shaking his head up and down.
It is an enclosed bus. I just don't have the photographs in front of me.
I apologize.
Mr. Bean.
Mr. Green, I got carried away with your Bean. I got carried away with your titleless hat. Would you share with us a little bit about what your bus is like, or what your vehicle's like, and how you enclosed it, and whether you're able to keep your passengers comfortable?
Okay. I used to work for Republic Services, drove a garbage truck. Their turn radius is phenomenal. So I took a landscaping truck because driving downtown, I wanted to be able to make turns safe. And so I converted it over. My bus is totally enclosed. Bench it probably can seat 20 people. I have a decimal reader, fire extinguishers. Everything that was required, I tried to comply with.
I'd like to focus on the enclosure and keeping your passengers comfortable.
Keeping them comfortable with it enclosed. Summertime, I haven't been able to operate. It's going to be totally, my opinion, impossible to keep them comfortable being enclosed. I haven't been able to operate because I want to comply. You guys said that initially it had to be enclosed. I wasn't enclosed. Can't have alcohol, so I can't operate. So I had to get it enclosed. Then I wasn't approved, and so I haven't been operating for that reason. But I want to comply, but it's hard to keep putting money into something. Then you don't know if you're going to be able to run the business. Mm-hmm. So if that answers your question.
Thank you. So, Mr. Fields, what you're saying is that as of right now, well, there's been a lot of controversy or a lot of discussion about the number of permits that have been issued, and the application process reopens on immediately. It's open now, and the deadline is by January 10th.
It opened after you established the calendar for 2023. It opened last month.
Okay. Yeah, just quick question. So we sort of set a limit on permits as we contemplated this over the last year. Are there any permits available right now? I mean, are all of them out?
there were 89 total permits that were approved as a part of the determination of the need for certificates of public convenience and necessity. 39 were entertainment transportation. There were 50 that were seated sightseeing. So all of them are filled at this particular moment. They're all the 89 are assigned.
Okay. But we'd have a different opportunity than in January potentially, or there's an outside chance that somebody gives up a permit or.
By your
something.
rules, you require an annual hearing to consider anyone who wants to apply for a certificate of public convenience and necessity, as well as any existing company that is a certificate holder that would like to expand or change their fleet. And so it's an annual meeting to reconsider the total process. How many you have? Are there more needed? Do you have new information that says, no, we don't need as many as we have? It's clearly a hearing that the commission has authority over.
That also gives us the ability to rescind any that have already been awarded due to noncompliance.
I'll defer back to Ms. Costones.
So all of the permittees and certificate holders are subject to this commission's disciplinary jurisdiction, such that if they commit violations, the discipline that they can face can include their permits being revoked or suspended.
At any time. That's not limited just to the annual public hearing on the matter. It
Correct.
can be done at any time. so.
Correct.
No, I meant, and I guess this is a question, not a statement, and that at any time I realize they can be rescinded or revoked or suspended, but there is a particular time for them to be reissued and not before so we could have 5 companies rescind, give up, go out of business, but those 5 permits would still not be in play to be given back out till February.
Well, here's what it amounts to. The certificates are not a permanent item. It is an annual item that is issued by the commission. Each year you have the authority and the responsibility to determine the needs of the community. So through your actions, you would make the determination of any changes that need to be made within the ordinance. And Ms. Costones has her finger on the button.
I was just going to say, so this particular motion is, or not motion, but they came here with a request that you all rescind or amend the prior motion that you adopted at the annual meeting that you had earlier this year, assigning permits to the various companies. Because Mr. Bean's company, did you get 0 permits, was it?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. We were in compliance, but Mr. Bean was unable to be here because of illness. And so, in other words, I think had this information been here at that time, I mean, we believe he would have been awarded a permit. And so we're just simply asking that that consideration be made now that it has been made clear that he was, at that time, in compliance.
Okay, so historically speaking, he wasn't here. He was not issued a permit. He filed an application but was not issued a permit. And they have filed a motion to reconsider. There was some concerns about compliance of the vehicle. And now you're in compliance and you would like us to issue you a permit today, even though we've maxed out the number of permits that we were doing. And I appreciate the fact that you've worked hard to get in compliance with your vehicle. We do have the application process is open again, and it will be considered in February. There'll be a vote on it in February. Rather than trying to reopen the matter, or a flood of other people trying. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the best process here, probably that I would recommend, is that you file an application and we take it up in February. But I'm open to other suggestions from other commissioners if there's other thoughts.
You can defer, you can move on, you can take whatever action you want to.
So I would say I'm sympathetic to what happened. I'm not inclined to want to add any permits just because we contemplated a number and we got there. And January and February was not that far off, but it's a ways. I wonder about just keeping this open, continuing to defer on the chance that there's a permit that comes open.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was
'cause
gonna
I would be
say,
inclined to offer a permit if there was one available. And if we kept this open on a deferred basis.
And I would add, I think your council would support this, the opportunity to reconsider, I mean, it's sort of come and gone. I don't think this is going to be a situation where we're going to have a floodgate of a lot of other people coming and making that request at this time. It's sort of a closed universe.
I think everybody on the commission disagrees with you on that.
Oh,
Well, I won't say that somebody couldn't ask, but I don't think it
Yeah.
would be appropriate since the time has sort of passed.
And that's the other.
That's correct.
That is my other concern, is that the precedents we would set by issuing a permit here might come back to haunt this commission later on. But that is an interesting, hold on one moment, okay? That is an interesting suggestion to defer the matter, continue it from month to month, and if Mr. Fields advises the commission that someone has surrendered a permit, we would not be adding any more permits or any more vehicles on the streets.
You could defer it indefinitely with a proviso that if there were someone surrendered a certificate, that you would ask that anything you have deferred along those lines would come back to the commission for the next closest hearing between now and the February annual meeting.
If I could just add one thing, which is that, as I think this commission is aware, I think a complication that will be remedied in the future is that no one was notified that they needed to be physically present here at that time, and that's a pretty unique circumstance. And I will just say this will be financially difficult if there is this 4-month delay for Mr. Bean. I know that the number 39 was set, but that is still something that is within this body's discretion to add permits if you so choose. And I do believe that this is a very limited circumstance, and I defer to the council if she sees it differently, but I do think it is certainly within your discretion, and this is a pretty unique circumstance.
We're also under very unique circumstances on this matter regarding ETVs, and I'm reluctant to be making exceptions at this point. We're under reasonable scrutiny right now.
Yeah. So Mr. Holloman is correct that, more than 60 days have now passed since the minutes from the meeting where the permits were awarded have been approved. So it would be too late at this point for other companies to come in and say, hey, we want to request that you amend or rescind that because it's become final. There is that. I think there is sort of a little bit of precedent because I'm trying to remember, was it at the August meeting maybe? There was a request to rescind or amend where there was one permit out of the 39 that had been surrendered and was able to be rewarded.
One of the companies was awarded and declined to
May
complete
have been
the
Mr.
process.
Holloman's
It
other
was my
client.
client, actually.
And I think we considered that because there actually was one available, and it would not change that number, and it would not necessarily open that floodgate to say that we still stayed within all the permits that we considered.
Yeah, Mr. Holloman's not wrong that you have discretion to go above and beyond the 39. What I would say is if you were to choose to do that, you'd need to articulate a good rationale for why you would be willing to do that at this time as opposed to what you were willing to do previously.
And that rationale would have to be under the standard of public convenience and necessity.
Yes, that is the finding of, how many permits would serve the public convenience and necessity was part of the focus of the June 29 hearing.
Mr. Holman and Mr. Bean, I don't think we have anything in the record that would support a rational basis for adding an additional certificate under the standard of public necessity and convenience.
Could I offer a possibility, which is that at the time that these applications were submitted, and as Ms. Costonis told you, that is a finite universe because you were more than 60 days beyond your decision. So no one else is going to fall into this. But at the time that this application was made, that rule was not set. That determination had not been made. So at the time he made this application, he lacked that notice. That notice was not given to him. That was something that was an after-created requirement. And so on that basis, because he qualified at that time, he was not notified that he needed to be here. He was not notified that there was a finite number of permits. He was properly applied for and in compliance with the regulations at the time he made the request. I don't think there'll be anyone else that can possibly fit that requirement. And other than the other person that is here today, and so yeah, other than the one other that's on your agenda, there's no one else that can fit that finite requirement. And so I think that in light of that, it is a very minuscule increase in the number of permits issued, and I think that is a reasonable basis. And I defer to whether Ms. Costonis agrees with that, but I think that is a rational basis for making that decision.
I mean, I understand the argument he's making from a due process perspective, but I think what our vice chair was explaining was that the number that serves the public convenience and necessity is more based on external factors, the community, the traffic, so something, we'd have to have some evidence relating to those factors to justify a change.
And to that, I think it's that you have a finite number of two, and that the increase of two is not going to have a significant difference on any of those external factors. If it was open to 10, 20, 30 more, I would say that's possible. But with two, I mean, that is, 5%.
Anything further from the commissioners?
I think I would make a motion to defer this again, sorry, inevitably, or indefinitely, excuse me, inevitably. It's a long day, Yeah, to defer this indefinitely and to take it up if there is a possible permit to be offered at some point.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
And this time I don't get the vote, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
All right, next on our agenda is consideration whether to rescind or amend the prior motion to modify the certificate of public convenience and necessity for Big Green Tractor Tours. Mr. Fields, would you give us just a brief history about this situation or update us?
At your meeting in September is very similar to what we just went through. They made a request to reconsider the action of only awarding a certificate of public convenience and necessity, but only one vehicle. So you at that meeting we basically just deferred it to this meeting for you to be able to consider again. We have inspected vehicles. That was one of the things you had asked. We have inspected. We had a little bit of setback. They did have a break-in and some vandalism and so forth, but they worked really hard and quickly and was able to get it to a place where we could look at it and determine it was roadworthy and compliant.
Is it enclosed?
Yes.
I was going to say we have pictures. She sent me pictures just prior to the meeting that I was unable to print, but we have pictures that will provide you for the record that they there are two trailers that are enclosed.
Ms. Hamilton, would you, for the record, just state your name and who you're with, and then also introduce the person to your right?
Sue Hamilton, and I represent the Big Green Tractor Tours, LLC, and this is...
My name's Ronnie Heatherly.
Ronnie?
Ronnie Heatherly.
Hi, Ms. Heatherly.
They have complied, as he said, more than complied. At the last meeting, I provided you all with the routes that they took and why they were in need of two. While they do ride together, they don't ride as a convoy. They don't ride side by side. They take the different routes, but they have two groups of people who are ordinarily together as a group. But they have made it work for the traffic, and they were actually doing this prior to the rules coming into place. So they, as if you still have those the routes that I gave you, it showed how they take off in different directions, but they take off about 5 minutes apart. They meet back, and then they go back out and they come back. So it works very well for the traffic. But they really needed both permits. And back to when they were denied the permit, we didn't have any basis for that. They were not given a basis for that denial. So I went through everything and found that they were completely in compliance, if probably more than, and they really did need that second permit.
Can I just say a few things?
Talk to your lawyer. It's the advice I give my clients.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
You go ahead. She's going to wait.
I'll wait. She said so.
So you have one permit right now,
Yes.
and you're asking for a second permit. And I just really don't grasp why it's essential to have two permits, Ms. Hamilton.
They run with repeated clients, and they
Corporate events.
corporate events and other and the likes, more than that can fit on one wagon. So they run them together. They keep the people together. However, they were doing, prior to the rules being implemented, they found a way, because the traffic is so congested, a way to make it work that they can still ride together and keep, meeting back. As I said, they need it to keep these clients that they've always had.
Can I make a comment real quick? So, how many permits were you asking for initially? You were asking for two.
Only two, because that's all we have.
Right. So, percentage-wise, you got 50% of what you asked for, correct? So, just let me paint another picture for you. We had clients that had 18, 24, 12, 18 that they got 4 permits, 3 permits, 5 permits, 12 permits. So in our deliberation over this, it wasn't necessarily that we denied her on the sole basis of this other wagon wasn't enclosed. It was on the fact that no one who came before us we were going to give them all their 26 or 34 or 12 or even 5 that they had on the road. That everyone before us, we thought we pretty much made it clear we were here to consolidate. And we tried to do that consolidation more on a percentage basis than on a number, meaning we weren't going to give her 2 just because she only had 2. When the person who came up with 24, we didn't give them 20 because they had 24. So I just wanted you to understand, it wasn't about your number. It was about that everybody that came before us was going to be asked to make a concession.
I realize that, and I understand that. Some need to be on a case by case. We always have and this is a little unique, what they've been doing and what they've always been doing, and it's worked.
Can I ask a couple of questions? Is it
Sure.
Ms. Heatherly?
Yes.
Ms. Heatherly, if you go by the microphone for a second, I just have a couple of questions to see if I can
Sure.
get some background here. When did you start operating?
My husband did the first one in 2016, but as this company, we started in 2018.
Okay, so 2016, 2018, and you had 2 vehicles?
We always had 2 vehicles.
Always had 2 vehicles. And are you one of these companies that has a particular clientele that is a repeat clientele over and over?
Yes.
That's what I want to, okay. And that repeat clientele requires you to have, or is more than what one vehicle can carry?
Right.
All right, and you like carrying these repeat clientele together?
Right.
All right. Now,
We don't do the Gulch, we don't do Midtown.
hold on. I'm just trying to get an understanding of why you actually need two
Yes.
vehicles. Because if it's just because you want to get more people that call in or Google in to give them rides, that's one thing. But you're saying historically you have had a particular clientele that the numbers that they need go in two vehicles.
Yes, sir.
And they like riding at the same time.
Yes.
Even though somehow you're magically figured out how to keep it from interfering with traffic.
Creative.
Yeah. Now, and then when the new rules came into effect and permits were being required, you only got one out of two.
Yes, sir.
And so this client, is it clients or client?
Clients. We get,
Clients, multiple clients. Are they business people? Or?
Yes, we get a lot of corporate.
All right. And you're telling me today, right now, that this is a repeat client or clients
Yes, sir.
that have routinely since 2015, 2018
Yes,
been
sir.
taking both vehicles?
Yes, sir.
All right. I just want to get the context of it here so I
This
understand.
past weekend was nothing but repeats.
And do you think these people really will quit using you if you only have one permit?
Right. I mean, they call me crying. They're like, what is going on with this city? Why are they doing that? I'm like, no,
All right. Let me ask you, have they stopped using your vehicle?
they can't ride because I only have one.
Right.
So they don't get to ride.
So have they quit? Well, are you still operating the one vehicle?
I'm still operating the one.
Are you
vehicle.
still operating that one vehicle with your clients?
Yes, sir.
All right.
But not all of them,
But not all of them?
Right.
But enough to keep that one vehicle full?
Right.
Okay. I'm trying to get an understanding of the historical perspective as well as the business impact to you, okay? Thank you. Anybody else got questions?
I don't have questions. I'm sympathetic, but I have the same problem about not expanding the number of permits.
Yeah, let's open it up for discussion then. From right to left, or left to right. Any thoughts, questions?
My concern is the
Considerations?
same as Commissioner Westlake's of, adding more permits to what we've already allotted. And I'm with you, I'm sympathetic to their cause and what they've put into it, but the concern is adding additional permits to what we've already approved.
And I will add that between now and the February meeting, companies can come to us with data or proof of the public necessity and convenience. I always get those mixed up, whether it's public convenience and necessity or public necessity and convenience. But I'm going to put necessity before convenience here today on this issue. But between now and February, when we have the public hearing, the open meeting, they can come to us with data that supports why an additional permit would meet the public necessity and convenience. And it also gives the public an opportunity to have their input about why we shouldn't be doing it. So,
Again, I understand perfectly what you're saying. Dealing with my business is 80% corporate, so I understand you. But I want you to understand that 7-hour process was very deliberate, and I'm sure that there are other people who only had 5 trucks or 4 trucks. The other guy who has the Army vehicles almost had the
Who was running during COVID.
had the same.
And we weren't.
Had the same thing, and we, had to tell him, well, you can't have them all. I'm sorry. Yours being smaller makes your cut a little harder than someone that had 35 and went down to 12. But in essence, it's the same. And until we find the need for necessity, or that there are permits given back into the system, I just don't see how we can at this time.
Was he speaking of the convoy? The convoy, right? I think they're very different. The one you're speaking of, they were a convoy where they rode together, correct? Is that what you were speaking of? I mean, it's almost like she's being punished, and she found a way. She saw the congestion in our city, the traffic congestion, and she found a way to work around it.
Well, I wasn't, and I apologize if I put that out there as a direct comparison. I was putting that out there to say that they generally rode together. That was a company that had a similarity, not an exact operation, and we still made a cut there as well.
He got his three.
And they still
He
had.
got his three.
Well, they didn't. I think we didn't we make them do one as a sightseeing and
Sightseeing.
yeah, we did one as
But
a
see, I wasn't
sightseeing
given
and
that option. I wasn't given one to, well, you can do one sightseeing and one. Ultimate was given that option too. Ultimate was given the option of, well, you can do one as a sightseeing, one as a party vehicle. I wasn't given that option. I was told one and that's it.
Excuse me, and I'm gonna ask Billy, didn't we give everyone the option of what to designate their vehicle as long as it fell within the guidelines?
It was an open, at that particular meeting, you allowed people to say, would you, and it basically you allowed them to make a request to have additional. That's, for instance, the one you're talking about, he specifically said, can I operate one as a sightseeing? Seated sightseeing, and I think, some came in and that's all they were going to be was sightseeing, and others came in with ETs and they were looking for ways to keep their equipment operating.
And without having a photographic memory, and that being a long meeting, there were multiple people who came before us that changed their designation or request from having sightseeing to party vehicles to say, okay, we'll meet, because we meet the regulations or because there is a limited number, we want 2 of these vehicles to be sightseeing only and 1 to be considered a party vehicle. I think there was more than one
No, there were several.
company that came before us that got that designation. So I would assume, and this is a big assumption, that everybody was paying attention and saw that process to see that once it was your turn to come up, that you had that same ability.
I was first and crucified, right? Everybody, when I turned around, they were like, oh my God. Because we have the perfect hours of only running Friday and Saturday. We came at 6, we left at 11. Saturday's 1 to 11. They thought, oh, she's assuring she'll get her too. And when I only got the 1, they were like, they all panicked, like, oh, we're all dead. They're going to kill us all. So.
I think you were not here last weekend when we.
Yeah, we were first because we came right behind the drag bus was up there, a big drag bus, and then we came up behind them, and then it was like immediately, and we were like, so because we don't go to Midtown, we don't go to the Gulch, we come strictly down 6, go down Broadway, go up 3rd, go over the bridge, take them to the stadium, come back, drop them off. So we don't even venture out anywhere else. We literally give them a tour of Nashville.
And for me, I would just like to say, for me, when in my consideration of everyone that was before me that day, the consideration was not about your route, but about the number of vehicles that we had out there. So from the way you describe it, it is the perfect storm, but I believe our mandate that day and what we were considering was the number and not necessarily where your vehicle went.
Well, I believe it should be case by case, but she said that she would accept if you would have her as just the tour sightseeing.
Because we're trying to compensate a loss with the company with 1 wagon. Because we only had 2. We didn't have 18. Because we didn't feel like any company. This gentleman right here said he came in the day of the meeting, said he came in saying, I'm just going to give 2 permits across the board. And I was like, that's fair. Because see what people do with their permits. And then the next thing I know, we get 1, and other companies that were operating during COVID are getting 13. And I'm like,
right, and in the wisdom of creating a board, no one person can determine that number.
right.
He could have said, I'm only going to get 2.
Right, but that was his intention that
We all
day.
would have had to agree with it. So.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think that's quite what I said, because the number wouldn't be 39, it'd be a lot less.
Oh, yeah, I get
If
you.
it happened, it did.
I get you. I understand.
All right. Is there any further discussion from members of the commission? All right. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I would make a motion that we defer indefinitely their request, and as the other one, if a permit opens up, that we bring it before the commission if it's prior to the February meeting.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So they won't help with the sightseeing? Could not turn that into a sightseeing vehicle?
It runs the same issue about needing to increase the number of certificates that are issued.
Is what it is.
I would strongly encourage you to put together a package to support the additional permit, the additional certificate for consideration during our February meeting. And I think we've talked a little bit today about from a business plan perspective and perhaps, again, looking to the standard, the threshold standard we have, which is it in the interest of public necessity and convenience? And I think you might have some customers that might be able to help support that, so, okay. All right, Mr. Fields, there's 2 disciplinary hearings that are set on here. Can you update us on the status of those, please?
On the first one, it has been withdrawn. The second one, there's been a request for deferral. Last month, you deferred it to this month for one side. The other side had a issue this month and asked to be deferred to November, so we will bring it back to you in November. We also have some other disciplinary issues I anticipate bringing there next month as well.
All right, so no actions needed by the
No
commission
action
on either.
needed.
Well, and one actually has now been withdrawn, so that's concluded. The Michelle Randall against Nashville or Nash Vegas cab is withdrawn.
You know, that one will be, yes, I'm sorry, yes, that is withdrawn.
Okay, so that's concluded, and then the Tamana Qureshi against Apex Parking Company is going to be deferred to the next meeting.
They'd like to defer it to November. By practice, we allow each side to have, they can have a pass one meeting by your practice.
Any other business today?
No, sir, I have no other business to present to the commission.
Well, wait, does any of the commissioners have any other business they want to bring to the table? Oh, easy, Mr. Rogers. All right, Mr. Rogers, do you have a motion?
I move we adjourn.
Any seconds? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, thank you for your time, everybody.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.